Pleased to say I can speak now to Chris Doyle, Middle East commentator and director of the Council of Arab-British Understanding. Good to have you back, Chris. So, I mean, the situation of late, we've seen a letter from multiple former senior Israeli officials calling for an end to the conflict. I read an article written by a former head of Shin Bet, the domestic intelligence agency, saying that this war needed to end. We see the protests out on the streets, people who want the war to end because they think it's not bringing the hostages back. So there are lots of voices, but are they in the minority? Just how divided is Israel?
Israel is very divided, and I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu's primary concern is to maintain his coalition, maintain his place in government without allowing the situation to deteriorate, that actually he has to call for elections and even put his whole political future on the line, remembering that he has all of these legal charges that are placed against him on bribery issues, on corruption issues. So he will want to end this war on his terms in the manner of his choosing. That means he would ideally like to get the hostages out because he knows that's a very popular call, understandably, within Israel after, so many days, over 675 days now. So he will want those out. But he also, at the same time, has to demonstrate to his base, to his supporters, and to the more extreme elements of his coalition that he has won. He can declare victory because this has been the way in which he's defined the military operation. And that means right now, in the way that he and others in the Israeli Security Cabinet are speaking, that Hamas has to surrender, it has to hand over its weapons, its leadership has to leave, that there has to be a complete victory in that sense. And that's going to be extremely tough to achieve. I think that Netanyahu is trying to bet on several horses at the same time. I think he wants to threaten annexation, threaten this reoccupation of Gaza, particularly Gaza City, the largest city in the Gaza Strip, 1 million people forcibly displaced under their plans. It could take 6 months. And hope that that will put sufficient pressure on Hamas that it will agree to those surrender terms. If Hamas doesn't, he goes forward. So he pleases one constituency or the other. If he does get some sort of grand deal and it's forced upon him by the Americans, for example, we don't know what President Trump will do, he still has options to try to claim some sort of victory. But it will be very challenging. I think we're going to see many more of these protests. I think that there is a schism between the political leadership and the military leadership and the security establishment within Israel. And as this continues, this could only get even sharper in terms of tone.
It's an often, and you touched upon it there, it's an accusation that I hear from most of the people I speak to, that Netanyahu's propagating this war for his own personal interests because it's basically keeping him in office and keeping him out of prison potentially. Do you think if he decides I'm going to keep this conflict going for as long as I possibly can, will he still have the backing of the public?
Well, he needs the backing of his coalition partners. That's what matters to him, at the moment, because that keeps him in power. So however large the protests are, unless he loses more coalition partners, of course he has lost some, he will still be in power. And that will be his primary objective. But also, obviously, he does have an eye to elections. He knows that his coalition partners can't be relied upon. So he will be thinking about that. And he will be thinking, how he can blame other people. He's absolute past master at doing that, how he can shift the blame. He can say that it was other parties that took down a coalition at the moment of victory. That he is so much the best at this sort of political operation than his counterparts within Israel. He also, if he has to calm things down in Gaza, perhaps due to international pressure, he can escalate in the West Bank, where there are many projects going forward, including the so-called doomsday settlement of E1 that will sever the West Bank between north and south and cut Jerusalem off from its natural West Bank hinterland. He's got plenty of options to keep the tensions very, very high. And I think that's what he will need to do. He will want to keep the Israeli public nervous, feeling threatened. And in that way, he will pose as Mr. Security. He's always liked to do that, the tough guy, the one you can trust. But, that comes up against, the accusation that this is now becoming a forever war, that in Gaza, that you're not really seeing a military success. It's been extremely costly in blood and treasure. And those criticisms are going to stiffen. And they will stiffen also as Netanyahu is hitting increased criticism internationally. You have Germany announcing that it won't be exporting weapons that can be used in Gaza, sanctions against ministers by various countries. So as that escalates, maybe with recognition of Palestinian statehood by various key states like France and Britain, Netanyahu will also look as if he's taken Israel into a rogue state territory, and that won't be popular amongst a large segment of Israeli public.
Chris, good to get your thoughts. Thank you for coming on. Chris Doyle, my guest, Director of the Council of Arab-British Understanding.